Good evening. The Lawrence Alliance for Education public budget hearing will now come to order. The time is 6:03. Maria, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Present.
Edgar de Leon, Arlene Garcia, Juana Matias, Maria Muller,
Present.
Mayor Brian de Peña, Chair Patricia Mariano.
Present. Did you get Arlene on Zoom?
I didn't hear her.
She's on. She was on a little while ago.
Arlene Garcia,
Present.
Oh, there we go. All right, we have a quorum. Could we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with the liberty and justice for all.
Could we also remain standing so that we could have a moment of silence for the tragedy that's occurred in the Dominican, and for all the people that have lost family members? Thank you. You may be seated. All right, this evening, we are going to hold our public hearing on our 2025-2026 budget. This is the notice that appeared in the local media. A public hearing on the proposed 2025-2026 Lawrence Public Schools budget will be held on April 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at the South Lawrence East Educational Complex Auditorium at 165 Crawford Street in Lawrence. The proposed budget is for the time period of July 1, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. A copy of the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget will be made available on the LPS website, www.lawrence.k12.ma.us, by the end of the day on April 7th, 2025. As always, we'll open this portion to public participation, and Mr. Marley, you're up for the budget hearing.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. In this important budget hearing, we, the citizens, are proud to have the most student-focused budget. Lawrence Public School, with the impeccable leadership by Honorable Superintendent Ralph Guerrero, on the road to become the best public school in the nation. We must remember, in order to have the most successful budget, we have to take care of and focus on our great teachers and the Lawrence Public School employee. We have to understand the best teachers in the nation are teaching in our city. We must know the great Lawrence Public School is great because of our excellent teachers, because of our hard-working paraprofessional cafeteria workers. The genius Ben Franklin said, every investment in education have thousands in return. In this most important budget hearing, we must pay the best compensation to our teachers, so other cities, they don't offer the best competitive wages to our teachers. We, the Laurentian, are #1 champion in support of Teachers Union. Lawrence always strong, Lawrence always unite. Lawrence teachers, you are #1 because of your hard work, because of your best education. Children of the Lawrence are proud to have the best future. In this important budgetary hearing, we must focus on our hard-working employees of the Lawrence Public School. We are proud to have the best budget for our public school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marley. The meeting is now open for public comment. Anyone wishing to come up and speak on the budget, please state your name and address, and we'll follow the same rules as we have for public participation. It'll be about 2 minutes for your opportunity to speak. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on the budget? We'll leave the hearing open for a little bit to allow people to get here. And then after that happens, we'll go back to our regular meeting. Thank you. Hearing no participants here in the public hearing, I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
George Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller. Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Could I have a motion to adjourn from this portion of the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
George Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller.
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. We are adjourned. Our regularly scheduled meeting will begin at 6:30 as posted. Thank you. Good evening. The Lawrence Alliance for Education Board meeting for April 9th will now come to order. The time is 6:40. Would you please stand for a moment of silence? Let's remember the victims of the explosion in the Dominican and all the families that have lost loved ones. Many have been impacted in the city. Thank you. Now we will begin with public participation for this portion of the meeting, and we have Mr. Monk.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. Lawrence Public School, with the impeccable leadership by Honorable Superintendent Ralph Guerrero, on the road to become the best public school in the nation. Lawrence Public School is great because of our awesome teacher, because of our hard-working professional employees, and the excellent employees of the Lawrence Public School. The teachers who inspire the whole world, the teachers who educate children of the world. Lawrence teachers, thank you for excellent job. The great Nelson Mandela said, education indeed the most powerful weapon to change the world. This change is only possible if we support our teachers union. We, the Laurentians, are proud to be the best example of support of the teachers union in the nation. The meaning of the true Laurentian means the one who support teachers union. Lawrence always strong, Lawrence always unite. We are proud to stand united and strong in support of our awesome teachers union. Lawrence teachers, thank you for gift of best education for the children of the Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Molly. This portion of the meeting is my chair's report, and I'd like to call upon, I'm sorry? Oh, attendance, I'm sorry. Well, I'm entitled to one mistake tonight. Maria, would you please call the attendance?
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Present?
Arlene Garcia,
Present.
Juana Matias,
Present.
Maria Muller. Chair Patricia Mariano.
Present. Okay. All right, my portion of the meeting tonight, the chair's report, I'd like to start with subcommittee reports. Jason Cabrera, could you come up with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee report?
Good evening, Madam Chair. This last meeting, we did not have a quorum. I had the honor of spending some time with board member Ms. Juana Matias, but we did not have a quorum.
Should have called Carlos first. We're going to do the recognition. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I started speaking and you were not looking at me. I'm sorry. I reported that we did not have a quorum. I met with Ms. Juana Matias, who was present, and that was the extent of the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, Carlos Matos on the Policy Subcommittee.
Good evening, board members. As I had stated before, the subcommittee had decided to form a working group so that it could advance the work. Initially, we were having quorum issues, and so what we decided to do is have a working committee to present, to go through the policies and review them against both the state standards, local standards, best practices, guided by Mass Associations of School Committees. And tonight, we're very pleased to present to you 3 sections that the working group has completed. Section A, which is Foundations Basics, Section B, which is Board Governance and Operations, and Section C, which is School Administration, for your consideration.
Any questions?
Tons of questions, because I haven't seen them. Is that means that this is, we have some time to look at them and then?
Yes, so it's not, the expectation is not that the board votes on it today. The expectation is we're submitting this for the board to review, and hopefully at the next board meeting or when the board deems ready, that you will vote on it, and we'll be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, just as a point of clarification. So the packages that Mr. Matos is talking about looks like this. However, this is only the first 3 sections. The policy manual is about 6 inches thick.
Correct.
In the spirit of saving trees and technology, what we've discussed is that while Mr. Matos and his subcommittee will be meeting with, we've contracted with the Mass
Association of School Committees.
So they work with the team to go over our policies. And the previous discussion was to try to do it in small sections to allow for the board to review them. But also, we need to be able to post those publicly. So while Mr. Matos has reported that these first 3 sections have been submitted to you, we won't ask for a vote until the following meeting, thus allowing the board to review them. And we will also post them on the website so that the public has a chance to review them, and they will be posted as draft.
Correct.
And we will continue each time that the subcommittee has several packages of sections that Mr. Matos will come forth, let you know that they have received them from the Mass Association of School Committees. We would post them again. And as each section gets voted in by the board, we then would post them on the website and make them official.
Correct.
So that when he sends it to the board, he will send it as a PDF copy to your home so that you can review them online versus printing out all of these things, unless somebody wants them printed.
Okay.
Is that okay, Madam Chair?
That's perfect. Any further questions?
Yes, the way that this is organized, I see that it's like by a general theme.
Section A, B,
Yeah, the Section A
C,
has foundations and basic
commitments.
commitments, whereas B is board governance and operations. C is
General.
general school administration.
Correct.
Are they, A, B, C is, A is more important than C, or does it matter?
They're not, one section of the policy is not necessarily more important than the next. It's an integral system. You can't have, for example, A speaks about the foundation and the legal structure of the board. And so you can't have that. I don't see that being more important necessarily than how the board yourselves governs themselves. So it's not necessarily that there's a weighted, it's just a matter of organizational system. One of the other things I would also mention to you that we also provided to the board the markup of what the original was versus the final version was. As I have indicated in here in previous meetings, we, through the suggestion and the guidance of the Mass Association of School Committees, we have gone through what's legally required, what is best practice, and what is unique to the Lawrence public school systems. So that's basically the rubric in terms of how we've gone through and analyzed these policies, as well as really removing things that are part of, should be procedures versus a policy, also versus things that are obsolete. All those are indicated in your markup copies.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you for thinking of bringing on MASC. I think that's great just to have, a third party reviewing our work and processes. So are we going to go over the budget here today so that there's a public kind of going through what it is that we're proposing before the next meeting where we would eventually take a vote? Because I know you've provided the materials, but are we going to walk through the materials in a public way?
Yes, Ms. Matias, that will happen in the next couple of sections. We're just going through the subcommittee, so there's only one other report, and then we'll get into that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Carlos, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you, I don't want to use the word like, but do you think the,
Sorry.
okay, all right. Do you think the person you're working with, or with the Mass Association of Schools, do you feel that they make good partners for us in this project?
Yes, I think that they've been excellent because they have worked across school districts, across the state. They are the state's expert with regards to these types of policies. As a matter of fact, they have a model policy, which is what we've been comparing ourselves to. They've been very methodical with regards to informing us of this is not necessary, this is outdated, we've updated our policies, we suggest this. I think that they've guided us very well with regards to stuff and have been very thoughtful and objective with regards to their recommendations to us.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jennifer Perry, would you come up and report on your curriculum and instruction?
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? So the Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittee met on April 3rd, and we discussed the curriculum dashboard. The curriculum dashboard is something that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education puts together and has us report on annually. that indicates the level of high-quality instructional materials that the district utilizes. So we talked about that dashboard, what materials are being used across the district, and how we will go about making decisions about future curriculum purchases. The other topic on the agenda for April was the February Acceleration Academy. So it was a report out of what happened in February in terms of the program design, participation, and intended outcomes. And we had a discussion about how we can do a better job tracking the impact of the program and thinking about a collection of data over time, looking at student attendance at different acceleration academies, maybe summer as well, in order to understand the impact of those academies, or reevaluating the program overall and determining how better to meet the needs of our students. The next meeting will be on May 6th at 5 p.m. So that's the summary of the
Any
meeting.
questions?
Thank you.
Jennifer, I just have one.
Sure.
Did you use that data to prepare for April vacation? April Academy?
I think it's quite a big turnaround to be able to do that because it's kind of,
It's
the plane
quick.
is already flying by the time February Academy rolls out. But we are certainly in that reflection state of looking at how to do things differently. So if we've been able to make minor adjustments, but not big programmatic adjustments at
Well,
this
that's
point.
what I was going to
Yeah.
ask you. Was there something specific that you felt had to be changed for April?
Well, I think the big thing is are these academies having an impact for our students? And so if not, like, how can we really understand what the impact is by looking at data over time, looking at student participation over time? I think the place that we're able to make some bigger adjustments right now in the short term is summer school and how that rolls out. But I think really programmatic changes would be for next year for the acceleration academies.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Any questions? Anybody on Zoom?
No.
All right, thank you.
Okay. The next portion of the meeting is probably one of my favorites. This is an opportunity that we as adults and parents get to celebrate the terrific programs in the arts that the kids are working on right now. Miss Saigon is supposed to be fabulous, and I look forward to being there over the weekend. But you did go to Florida. You came back with the big prize, and we as a board would like to thank you for that. And should we invite them up, Superintendent? What do you think?
Well, thank God the stage is big enough. Absolutely, Madam Chair. So this is only 35 members of like the 85 actors that we have. These are the 35 that participated and went to Florida and participated nationally. I will give you a data point that I had the honor of hearing. Not only did they win first place for their performance of in the Heights, they won it with the highest score in over the last 10 years of any performing arts school while in Florida. While they were looking at the big prize and said, we're going to work for that, they noticed that there were single plaques there. They said, what the hell, let's take those two. So we had individual performances also, and they won prizes in first and second place for solo performances also. So they came back with all the hardware that they offered in Florida. I said, don't feel bad if you don't get invited back, because I think that they're going to be feared among schools. Mr. Caravaggio, if you could have the team come up, and the chairwoman is going to present the performing arts students with a plaque of many of them over the years coming up that they will have on the walls at our Performing Arts Academy. Maria, would you give the chairwoman her microphone to be able to read that for the students' plaques?
All right, before I present this plaque, I'd like the students to do something for me, okay? Now, it's not going to be that bad, so, but if you know me, it will be. No. How can we make your terrific performance known to the city in a wide way? Where are we, if you talk to the average person, they don't know that you came back with all those prizes. And I think that's something we should shout off the rooftops in Lawrence and say, do you know what terrific students and performers we have? So I want you to think about some way we can spread the word. And you can email me, you can call me, whatever you want to do. But I really would love the citizens of Lawrence to know how exceptional you guys are. So I'd like to read this. Lawrence Public Schools and the Lawrence Alliance for Education are proud to recognize some exceptional students and staff this evening. First, the students and staff of Lawrence High Theater for their exceptional representation of our district and city in the 2025 National Performing Arts Festival, where they received several major honors, including the Showcase Trophy for the highest honor. I mean, this is where, hey, Lawrence, do you know how talented our kids are? That's what I'm looking for. So if you could come up with an idea, I'm sure the superintendent would go along with it. Do you have the plaque, Superintendent?
I gave it to Ms.
Okay. All right, so I guess what are we doing next?
You can read the plaque and then you can.
You want to read the plaque? Oh, you want me to read the plaque?
You can read the plaque.
Okay.
I'll hold it for you.
In recognition of Lawrence High School Theater's exceptional representation of Lawrence Public Schools and the city of Lawrence at the 2025 National Performing Arts Festival. Ensemble Excellence in Choreography, the Judges Trophy for High Achievement, and the Showcase Trophy for Highest Festival Score. And another thing, as the chairman of the Cultural Council, I want to thank you for applying for a grant every year, and we're glad to be a little part of what you do with the kids. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
That little camera's powerful, that she
No,
has.
they have to.
I'm holding on to it.
Now, hold on.
Say the best.
All right, thank you,
Right
everybody.
All right, thank you. Don't forget, I'm looking for ideas. Yes, I know what I do with the paper. Yeah, I do. A little wobbly, but. We have another terrific award, and this was presented to Hillary McDonald, class of 2026. Hillary, could you come up, please? She has her dad here, and I believe her mom. The lights are. Hello, Hillary. Congratulations.
When you're going to get ready to wrestle, and you don't look like a wrestler.
Congratulations. Congratulations. All right, Hillary. The assignment I gave to the theater group holds for you too. We should be shouting your praises across the city. So if you have any ideas, we're looking for them. All right, let's see, where are we? Hillary McDonald, LHS Class of 2026, for earning her second consecutive All-State Championship and for being a New England Championship finalist. Fantastic. And we have a plaque for you. Wrestling, 185-pound division, 2024 Division I State Champion, 2024 All-State Champion, 2025 All-State Champion, and 2025 New England finalist. Awesome. Know that we are very proud of all of you. So thank you very much for making Lawrence High School shine across the country. Right?
I'm sorry.
There you go, it's their picture moments now. You would never know she's a wrestler. Isn't she incredible? We would never know that she was a wrestler. We would never know this. She's so gorgeous that she was a wrestler. She is tough. She is tough. It's exciting, Madam Chair and members of the board, that not only are our kids artistically gifted, but obviously they're also athletically gifted. And Hillary has represented us over the course of the last 3 years. I know that her college career is going to be an exciting one, and boy, whatever school she goes to, every other school is going to have to fear her, because she has proven it in and out of the rink for the last 3 years. So congratulations, and students, both the arts program and our athletic program, thank you for making us shine, okay? And this is just the beginning of your successful careers, and remember where you came from. No one can take away the fact that you came from Lawrence, and you should be proud to wear those Lancer colors. So congratulations, all of you. Thank you. We have votes, Madam Chair?
Yes, we do. This is the fun part. The next item on the agenda is the school choice. I'm just going to read the motion, because any of you that were present last year know that someone sitting at this table messed up her grammar. I did. So I'm looking for a motion, or Superintendent, how about you give us a little bit of a,
Sure. So every year, school districts that do not want to participate in what is referred to as school choice. School choice is where our district allows for students from outside of our community that want to apply and participate in our school programs to be a student. And the recommendation this year is for us not to participate in school choice, not because we don't want to accept other kids from other school districts, but because we have so many kids in our district that we don't have enough room for kids in other districts. So in order for us not to participate, the school board annually has to take a vote of an affirmative yes that we are declining to participate. So a majority of vote of a yes is required for Lawrence Public Schools to decline participating in the state's public schools choice program.
okay.
So the motion, Madam Chair, would be for the school board not to participate with a yes vote.
All right. Any questions?
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair, through you. can you clarify what we're voting for? I can't hear very clearly. It
I'm
didn't
s-
make sense to me.
I'm sorry, Ms. Matias. So every year, every school district has to take a vote whether they want to participate by allowing students from outside of the Lawrence Public School District to apply to be in our school. And we're making the recommendation not to participate, so we have to decline it because of the overcrowding that we currently have in our schools. I would envision sometime in the future, if there's an opportunity because of, like you saw, our phenomenal performing arts program, our phenomenal athletics program, or our phenomenal bilingual program that we might have, that there will be other school districts that would want to be able to send their children to our school so they can graduate being proficient in 2 different languages, or because they have the type of skills that our other students have demonstrated. But that's not the point at this time. So because of that, the recommendation is for a yes vote that we are declining school choice participation. Is that, Ms. Matt, thank you.
Any
Super helpful,
further
thank-
questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved?
for-
Second.
I was going to read it first. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the Lawrence Public Schools not to participate in Massachusetts school choice for school year 2025-26. A majority vote of yes is required for LPS to decline participation. May I have that in a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, Maria, please call the roll.
Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda that requires a vote is the MSBA Statement of Interest and Application Submission. Again, Superintendent, would you give us a little bit of a,
Yes, I'm going to ask our operations manager, Ms. Hernandez, to come up just to give a point of clarification. I believe we had discussed this at our last meeting, and it was introduced through the fact that we were contacted by the Mass Schools of Building Association of our willingness if they had extra monies available, and if we were interested in applying. And Odanis couldn't get off the phone fast enough to run to the mayor's office. Odanis?
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, board members. As the superintendent alluded, we're here before you to ask for a vote to allow for Lawrence Public Schools to submit an application to the Massachusetts School Association, so the MSBA. There is funding available as part of our accelerated repair project. There's about $300 million available that all school districts are entitled to apply for. So part of our internal capital plan, we submitted, or we would like to submit, an application for roofs and for windows. Those are the 2 eligible categories, or 2 of the 3 eligible categories under the ARP projects, funding that it's available. So we have identified a much-needed roof repair here at the South Lawrence East. I'm sorry, not a roof repair, a roof replacement here at the South Lawrence East, also at the Frost Complex, and then the windows project for the Arlington Complex. Some of the criteria for qualification for these projects are the age of the buildings. So it needs to be a roof over 20 years old or windows over 20 years old. Therefore, those were the 3 schools that met that criteria. Hence why we wrote the application to include those 3 schools.
What are the votes required for eligibility, Ms. Hernandez?
So that the requirement to successfully submit this application to the MSBA, it requires a vote from the, the vote from the school board. So this board, and also it required a vote from the city council. We successfully received and obtained the vote from the city council, and now we're here before you to hopefully also obtain an affirmative vote from the LAE Board. There's about, I should also add that we did an estimate with a engineering firm to kind of estimate the cost for the roofs and the windows, and we're looking at a total budget of about $18 million that it would cost to do both replacements of the roofs and the windows. We have over 800 windows at the Arlington. It's original windows from when the school was built in 1985. And some of those windows, if you visited lately, you can see, we cannot open the windows. They're also, you can't see in or out. So I think it's much needed for that school. The MSBA, as part of the ARP project, goes through the same similar process as the two schools that we're building, right? They have the 80% reimbursable rate that the city is entitled to. And that 80%, it's more accurate on a ARP project than on a core project, which is the construction of the schools. Therefore, we anticipate that if the MSBA invites us, or we are selected, one of the three schools, hopefully they invite us for all three schools, that the reimbursable rates will be very accurate or very close to anywhere between 70 to 80%. Where, as you remember, we saw from the building of the two schools, some of that, the reimbursable rate was about like 60% versus a true 80%. It would cost, it would be an estimated cost to the city when we get there. We're anticipating this will be a 2-year project from when we submit the application to when the MSBA Board of Directors review all the applications and then decide to invite us in. We're anticipating a 2-year project with about anywhere between $4 to $5 million cost to the city.
Any questions? Odanis, is the application similar to what we did for the new schools, like that period of time before you're approved?
Correct. Yeah, it follows the same process. Correct. Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody would like to ask? Dolores?
Yes, so I'm clear. So the city council has approved it, right?
Correct.
And then based on the upcoming budget,
It wouldn't affect.
Wouldn't
upcoming.
affect.
So if
Okay.
the board, if the LA Board approves to submit the application, the mayor would sign the application and off it goes to the Mass School Building Association. They then, when they take it up, it would take approximately 2 school years. So we're looking at a minimum of approval for SY '27 school year, so that's 2 years.
2 years.
And then, in order for us to receive those funds through the administration, we would have to secure our 20% of the 100%, so the state would provide 80%, and the city would provide 20% for what that cost factor is.
Okay, so in lieu of what's unfortunately is going to happen with the president's undoing many things, how do we tackle, this uncertainty that we don't know that what's
I
going
think
on? I mean, we keep planning no matter what.
I think that it's prudent for us to continue to plan accordingly, and there is uncertainty, but if for whatever reason, we believe in 2 years, there will be a change in whichever arm of government, whether it be the Congress or whether it be the presidency. It might change. If we don't at least put our application forward, we would have made a mistake in not taking advantage of the opportunity that it presents itself. What harm do we have in not putting forth our application? The worst that can happen is they would say no because the state doesn't have money. But if the state does have money, and let's remember, Massachusetts, along with 13 other blue states, in the United States are what foot 75% of the federal government's budget. So I would choose to say that currently, in the state of affairs that we have in Massachusetts, we have a pretty stable economy. And we can incur some impact. That's not to say that we should sit on our laurels. We're working diligently with our representatives, our Congress, our Senate, to make sure that our voices are heard. And and I know that the governor is taking up legal matters through our Attorney General's office to make sure that Massachusetts gets its fair share of federal funding, the way it was committed, the way it was also distributed by Congress.
I hear you. And also, in the meantime, if we don't attend those windows and those roofs, it's going to get worse, right?
There you go.
Yeah, so I just want to just highlight that this is a process that is highly advantageous for the city and for the district to take advantage of, because it's an opportunity for funding that's there. There's no funds to be committed at this moment. I provided kind of like the rough estimate on what the total budget would be, or the total cost would be, including the roofs and the windows, because we need to include that as part of the application, and also to be able to give us an idea of what the true cost may be, right? That's the cost today. What may be, and also for the city and for the city councilors to also have that information. However, it's similar to the process with the construction of the buildings or the construction of new schools, right? They call that core projects. It's an invitation to apply, and then it needs to move through the motion. For the two schools that we're almost completing soon, that application was submitted in 2015 or 2016, around that time, 17. We weren't invited to move through the process till like 2018, 2019. So you know what I mean? So it takes time. It's just submitting the application, letting the MSBA know, yes, Lawrence has a need. It's not that the roofs are in any dire need or in bad shape. However, because of the age of the school, it is appropriate for us to consider the schools, and we should take advantage.
Anything else? Okay. I would entertain a motion that the Lawrence Alliance for Education authorize the superintendent of schools to submit a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority for their 2025 Accelerated Repair Program. Could I have a motion for that?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda that requires a vote from this board is the facility rentals. And I believe that came in your packet.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hernandez is up at the microphone.
Yes.
Remember, we always have different organizations interested in using our facilities. There has been several requests. Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, thank you, Superintendent. We have 4 requests before you this evening. We are presenting them all with a favorable recommendation. There is one slight change, and this just happened today. It's the last request here, the Laura stage, for a dance recital. The date that they have requested is actually not available, so we were able to communicate with them, and we offer a different date, and they have accepted that. So the actual date for that that final show will be rehearsal on Saturday, the 12th of June, and then the show will actually be on Sunday, June 14th. That is the only change here.
What are those dates? Donna, one more time.
I'm sorry, the dates?
Yeah.
Sure. So the date for the request for the Laura stage is Saturday, June 12th for rehearsal, and Sunday, June 14th for the show.
Would that be the 13th,
14th.
14th?
Oh, because you're right. I see what you're saying.
No,
No, I'm giving you, I'm saying the dates, and they're not aligning. Give me 1 second, Madam Chair.
So if
It will be
Saturday,
Saturday the 14th and Sunday the 15th.
okay.
okay.
Ahora sí.
Thank you.
You know, she was a principal before.
There's also another change, and this just also happened today. The Feria Inmobiliaria here at the South Lawrence East, they had requested to do this at the end of this month. However, because of the unfortunate tragedy that has taken place at the Dominican Republic, that entity has requested to move the date. So they're now requesting, and we're looking for availability for a May date. They're looking for May 18th. So I just asked on this item because time is pressing, that maybe your vote will be that you approve the request or the recommendation with the availability of the date as negotiated with Lawrence Public Schools.
What date does the 18th fall on?
I'm sorry, Superintendent?
What day does the 18th fall on?
May
Is that like a weekend?
So they are requesting right now to do Friday the 16th of May
The 18th is a Sunday.
for setup, and they are requesting to do the actual days of their event on Saturday, May 17th, and Sunday, May 18th.
Got it.
We are still working to ensure availability of the space and also ensuring that the entity agrees or formalizes that that date will work for them. Again, it was a last minute kind of change of date due to what's happening in my country, in the Dominican Republic.
Any questions? No. All right. Could I have a motion to approve the use of school facilities request for the Vachel Gade New England Marathon Mandel, I'm sorry for mispronunciations, Mitchell Mitchison Center for Performing Arts Dance Studio, Banco Ban Reservas, and Laura Stage, as recommended by the Facilities Committee.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Yes. Did you approve? You said yes? Second?
Second?
Thank you. All right, motion. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Torres Calaft,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. All right, the next item is to approve the minutes of the March 12th meeting, followed by, are there any omissions or corrections that you'd like to make? Hearing none, would someone make a motion to approve those minutes of March 12th?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Maria. All right, could we have Maria call the roll, please?
Dr. Torres Calaft,
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes, motion passes. Okay, the next, Superintendent, I'd like you to explain to us about this donation from the Schusterman Foundation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it took me a couple of times to pronounce it. I'm going to have Ms. Perry to come up quickly to the microphone because she led the visit by the foundation subcommittee to quickly explain what they were looking for in terms of our literacy assessment of our district and what the $30,000 donation is about.
So the Schusterman Foundation, I believe I presented maybe last month when I talked about the literacy team. The Schusterman Foundation is an organization, a philanthropic organization that works with one of our main partners, the Achievement Network. And they did a literacy site visit back in February and visited 6 of our schools and The process included bringing in experts from around the country into Lawrence and then giving us feedback. And so that feedback I shared with you all last month. As part of their recognition of the work that we put together for them and hosting them, this $30,000 comes from that. And so they have awarded us that money without any restrictions, no need for follow-up, no need for reporting. So it's truly a gift, an honorarium almost, if you will, to acknowledge the work that we put in to host the Schusterman Foundation in their literacy site visit. So that's kind of the gist of it. And the money would go to the Curriculum and Instruction Department to really follow up on some of the guidance that they provided us in terms of supporting literacy work in the district.
Any questions? No?
Are there any specific initiatives that you think this will help to highlight?
Yeah, I mean, the feedback that they gave us was really around creating a literacy, a vision, a unified vision, thinking about high-quality instructional materials. So I can see work for next year where, I mean, $30,000 won't cover the whole amount of it, but it will certainly support us to move that work forward. And so I can see that money being applied to directly to the types of work related to the feedback that they gave us. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get them back for quarterly visits?
What's that? I missed what you said.
Can we get them back for quarterly visits?
Oh, yeah, yeah, $30,000 every time.
Dolores, did you ask if there was some place for recognition for them?
No, I was just thinking about, was there any specific angle that they were looking, right? Because maybe next time we can go for higher,
Yes,
right?
yes.
As somebody who writes grants, that's what I'm thinking, you know?
Maybe,
time.
Jen, if you think about it, maybe someplace in one of the schools or something, wherever that money is allocated, there could be some recognition for the group that
Schusterman
made this
Foundation.
donation. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very generous on their part.
Okay, could I
Thank you.
have a motion to accept the donation of $30,000?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second,
Second.
Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaft,
Yes, yes, yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes, affirmative.
Juana Matias. Juana?
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, motion passes. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to the superintendent for his monthly reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you well know, and members of the board, it's budget season, and our CFO, Mr. Jason Cabrera, who has worked nonstop over the last 4 weeks with all of the teams, all of the input, has finally put together a draft budget for us. I also want to thank Ms. Matias that came in during the subcommittee meeting to offer some advice and questioning, obviously, of the budget process that worked with Mr. Cabrera. I'm going to have Mr. Cabrera come up to the microphone, and I'm going to turn it over to him to provide the presentation. Please hold your, well, actually, Jason, do you feel comfortable as you're doing the budget presentation for board members to interject questions at that time, or you wanted to hold off?
No, I would appreciate if the question comes up with any given information, just bring the question up at that time, and then,
Okay.
we'll address it then and move on. And if there are questions that's still at the end, we'll address those also.
Take it away.
All right. So I want to refer to the online documents. Online, for the people that may be watching at home or watch this later, online we have the draft budget. We have two parts to it. One of it is the prelude to the spreadsheets, and then the second part of it has to do with the sheets, spreadsheets that address budgets for all departments and all schools. So there are two parts to the budget online. So if folks want to refer to that, that's how you find both of them. Superintendent talked about in the last 4 weeks, we've been working nonstop. We started this process probably soon after we got here, sometime in September, October, meeting with our department heads, meeting with people, budget owners, and kind of looking at where we were at, right, as far as aligning the funds to the priorities of the district. Came across some surprises and some things that were not so much surprising. The first time that I stood here in this podium, I talked about the team that we were assembling to address the finances, right? And I talked a little bit about, I think I said that we couldn't have accuracy without accountability, and we cannot have accountability without transparency. So throughout this whole process, even here, that stands true as far as transparency, accuracy, and accountability. We have looked at the priorities of the turnaround plan, the priorities of our superintendent, of the LAE Board, and that's what we're here today. This is a draft. My hope is that we get a lot of input so that next time that we are here with a final budget, we can get to where we need to be. If I can get the first slide, if you can zoom in, I want to zoom in on this thing that says net school spending. I would hope, I think you may have to zoom in a little more, and it doesn't matter if it's one side first, but yeah, you can move it around, thank you. Our foundation budget for the district, for the city of Lawrence, it's the number on top, 33 million, 900, almost 334 million. That money it doesn't mean that money comes to the Lawrence Public Schools, but it's what the city starts with, and then there is a formula where, the amount for charter tuition gets taken out, school choice, special education, and then municipal related costs. Then after that's taken out, then we add the reimbursement for charter tuition. We also add the funds that the city puts towards transportation, adult education, leases, and a miscellaneous Chapter 74 tuition that is on there. On the left, if you can go down a little bit more, Suzanne, that's the schools department's calculation based on the state data and kind of what we've been doing in the past. If you go to the right, there is another calculation. That calculation is based on my conversations with the city's chief administration and financial officer and the treasurer. That number, as you can see, I don't know if you can see the difference there. There you go. On our calculation for the school district, the number is close to $310 million. If you go to the right, the number that is being given is about close to $5 million less. If we can go to the next slide, please. Any questions about this here? And I just want you, as a matter of fact, hold that thought. If you have a question about this, let me talk about this, and then I'll make sure I go back to it and point out some things. The budget process explained. Like I said, we started this process a while back. Where are my notes? Throughout the process, we started with an internal subcommittee meetings that included department heads such as curriculum and instruction, OSSS, student support services, HR, deputy superintendent, facilities or operations, and that was to assess kind of the priorities and the objectives for this upcoming year. We also had meetings with principals and the department heads again, just to gather their input and inform people of the process. So we met with them, we let them know what our priorities were, and also listened to what their needs were. Also, LAE Board subcommittee meetings, we started those sometime in December, and that was, to discuss priorities and align the finances with the district's priorities. We had school planning sessions, which were 2 weeks straight of listening to principals and department heads about their operational plans, about their improvement plans for their schools, their needs, and kind of getting to know a little bit about, to me, was an experience, opportunity to learn about them and to learn about the district. So that was a very informative part of the process. Let me see. Today we're here for the public sessions and also the presentation of this first draft to gather input from the community, but also gather input from the LAE Board meeting, from the LAE Board, and from here, the next time we meet, we would have finalized, hopefully, the budget and present it for approval and voting to you, and after that, present it to the City Council. And you will have a finalized budget couple of weeks before our next meeting. All right. If you can go to the next slide. All right. So this is the two revenue formulas that we have. And again, this is based on, let's see, I hope that you can read that, but you can make it bigger, Suzanne, and we can just move around the document as we go. As I said, it's close to $334 million. That's the foundation budget. You take out charter, school choice, and add the things that need to be added. In my add, when I add the amounts, there are fixed amounts that I cannot change, and then there are amounts that are expectations, right? For example, transportation, which is the responsibility of the city. We have an expectation of what amount based on our current contract, on where we're at with that contract, that vendor, and the prices in the market, right? We have an expectation of how much it's going to cost us and how much the city would provide. Adult education, their budget for last year was $1.3 million. For this next year, they're going to do some things that are going to come up to about another $130,000. So their budget went up, or their request for the city to fund an extra $130,000 for that group. And then leases, which we have, and again, the Chapter 74 miscellaneous tuition. So on the right-hand side, if you can, there are some arrows there. I pointed out some of the differences between our calculation and the calculations based on the conversations that I've had with the city treasurer and the chief financial officer for the city. Municipal-related costs are going up by, it's written down in if you have your, the printout, it's over there. There is a couple of bullets. The first bullet says that municipal-related costs are based on a 2013 Memorandum of Understanding, which has been attached. You should have that with you. That is dated from 2013. And I just want to point out that memorandum is currently being reviewed by the Lawrence Public Schools and the Massachusetts Department by DESE. So more to come on that. And again, please note that the city's appropriation calculation for fiscal year 26, which is the total appropriation at the bottom, that amount decreases significantly when compared to the calculation that we have, which is based on past practice and, not past practice, but, the last year's budget and how we've calculated in the past. The category of municipal-related costs, like I said, was increased by $1.819 million, up to a total of almost $4.3 million, as well as a decrease both in transportation by $1,637,000 and the leases by $635,000. The shortfall caused by these changes to the expected appropriation amounts to a little bit about $4 million, over $4 million. In the conversations that I've had, again, transportation, we're asking for what we know is going to cost or close to it based on what the market is. This year we got about $12.5 million. Next year we're getting less. The city's responsibility, right? Less than what it was this year. So that's just one point of understanding where we're at when we're talking about the discrepancy between one calculation and the other. Same thing with the leases, which this year we got $985,000. Next year, the city's allocation appropriation for that category is $350,000. So.
As you're going through these calculations, the $313 million that you have calculated based on what our cherry sheet is saying that we're having versus what the city is proposing to honor us with, our money, is a difference of $6,899,000.
Let me correct that, because I looked at the cherry sheet and it has been updated. So the amount is the $4,020,000 is the amount. That is the difference. So go ahead, continue, sir.
Okay. And looking at one other huge discrepancy is under municipal-related costs, the $2,480,000, that was based on the memorandum of understanding with the city from last year?
Not from last year, sir. That was from 2013.
So what is this $2,480,000?
What is that covering? And when we signed that memorandum of understanding, I believe that it was during William Antigua's time, because I took a look at the memorandum. Did we stipulate that we were going to continue to pay the city for whatever these municipal costs that have not been enumerated? I'd love to see a detailed kind of breakdown of like, what is it that we're giving the city $2.4 million for? And if nowhere we signed a contract that was indefinite or for 5 or 10 years, we are not legally responsible for this. And I would want to hear very clearly from the city why they think we are.
If I could just answer that real quickly, Mr. Cabrera. I don't know if you have a copy of it in front of you, the June 13th MOU, but in the provision under stipulation number 13, this MOU will be in effect through FY 18-19 and will remain in effect until a successor agreement is approved. We have contacted the Department of Education. We have a scheduled meeting with our oversight board members and the state fiscal agent with his Jay Sullivan. So that's scheduled sometime, I believe, next week or the following week. And specifically, Ms. Matias, this contract is what's going to be discussed and some of the concerns that you have raised. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. And then my next question is, bringing in MASC, have they seen this ever be done in other school districts? Do these memorandums exist and whatnot in terms of like what are best practices as a third party? I'd love to get their viewpoint on that. And then one other point of clarification, because I think Jason and yourself, Superintendent, have been great in being very transparent around this. The $13 million in transportation, is that our responsibility or city responsibility? I'm still very unclear on that.
That is one of the costs that the city is responsible for.
But right now, we're paying it.
Well, no. For this year, they assessed about 12.5 million. So we're hoping, I'm looking at our COO, but we're hoping that that's enough for this year. For next year, the amount being allocated is less than that. The amount for next year is less than this year's.
But we have more students requiring transportation.
I'm sorry.
But we have more students requiring transportation.
That is correct. I mean, our population is growing, yes, sir.
But we're getting less funding of what the city wants to appropriate to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It would, for me, it would beg the question, and if we don't have that answer now, I think it's important that we have that because it's a legitimate question to ask, and I won't put our COO on the spot, but I assume that we calculate our busing needs based on our special ed population, which is mandatory, and students that live beyond the 1.4 miles or 1.5.
Yes, so Superintendent, one thing that I want to point out, for this year, we calculated for 60 or so homeless families.
Okay.
That population has grown to 300 plus this year, right? That's just one of the populations that has exploded, and we have to transport those kids to our schools. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, and that, you bring up a good point. Because those families are considered homeless, the McKinney-Vento Act comes applies at this particular point. That's mandatory busing or transportation in general.
Correct. There will be our unhoused or homeless students and also students in foster care, so in DCF. So we have seen a tremendous increase of our families becoming unhoused, so doubling up, and also of placements of students into state custody.
And I just want to clarify, because when we title students or families as homeless, that doesn't mean that they're living in the streets or under tents. So, for example, you just mentioned children in foster care. Because they're in foster care, does that categorize them then as being homeless?
Two different categories, Superintendent. So under our homeless contract, when we go and contract down, it services both our homeless students and also students that are placed and stay in DCF custody. And the reasoning why transportation costs have increased is because our students are not being placed within our neighboring communities. They're being placed in Worcester, Framingham, Boston. So it's not a regular cost of $345 per bus or per trip, right? It's almost an individual. It's almost like an Uber ride. It's almost an individual trip, yep. Unless we have multiple families, possibly in the same shelter, then we can then use one van or one bus. But typically, it's one-offs.
And that's round trip.
Correct.
Thank you.
Odanis, may I ask a question? What you just said about students being placed in different communities, is there any way an addendum or something could be added to that McKinney-Vento law that the student should be placed in the closest school or district that they were previously in? So if we have a Lawrence student that right now is being transferred to Worcester, why can't they stay here and eliminate that transportation? That's the piece I don't get.
Mm-hmm.
So good question, Madam Chair. We're hoping to have those conversations. We're working with the FRC and our homeless point of contact for the state.
Family Resource Center.
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, Family Resource Center and our homeless point of contact for the state to start those conversations. But these are our own kids, right? So I become homeless. I'm being the only available shelter may be in Boston. So my family is being moved to Boston. I want to stay in under the McKinney-Vento, I can stay in my district. So then transportation is required to then pick up the student in Boston and then bring them to the Lawrence school and then vice versa. So we're not bringing kids necessarily from other districts. It's our own kids that are being moved outside of the district.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And they're being moved because of the shelter availability,
Yes.
correct?
Availability, correct.
Right.
I have a question. In terms of the money that the city has for transportation, is that coming from the federal or is that state money? Do you know?
Would that fall under their net school spending requirement?
That's part of their contribution, their minimum contribution. It may be, I'll be honest, Ms. Calaf, I don't know where
We
they
don't
get
know.
the money. But I'm assuming it's the tax base.
Yes.
Tax base comes up with, tax revenue that is put towards that, yes.
State, okay. All right, that's helpful.
Any questions about transportation?
You may continue. Okay.
Not transportation, so sorry, I was trying to mute myself.
I was gonna
Just
go,
when
I was gonna go back to you and the, what does that money cover? But for example, O'Dani's has brought up, Ms. Hernandez has brought up a good point, right? The last few years, we were fortunate to have had ESSER, ESSER funds, right? The emergency relief funds, which helped us with supplement transportation, because we were, correct, we were short under budget on transportation, and that money was there for us to be able to tap into and cover that deficiency. That is not the case going forward.
That's helpful. And then one of my questions, and I assume you'll get to this through your presentation, Jason, so this will be my last question. When I look at the $313 million proposed budget for fiscal year 26, is that taking into account potential federal cuts? Or is this or is this the 313, like, this is if no cuts were to happen at the federal level, this is what we expect, and then there'll be an iteration of, like, if there were to be cuts, this is the gap, and this is where we'd see that we need to cut.
So that money is straightforward Chapter 70 funding, state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts money. The taxpayers of Massachusetts fund Chapter 70 and the Student Opportunity Act. I'll get to a slide where we talk about grants, which amount to about $19 million. And that's where, if there were any federal cuts, that's where we would feel it, right? For example, I don't want to get ahead, but since you brought it up, for example, under Title I federal grants, we get about $7.5 million or so. We have, out of those $7.5 million, about $5 million of that is salaries for teachers. Like, that's how we pay teachers, right? So if we didn't have that, that would be a huge hit to some of the things that we can do to supplement, the education of our children. Does that answer your question, Ms. Matias?
It's supposed to.
It does, and I assume we'll start looking at that as we get closer to the grants. So, but it's good for me to understand that the 313 is our state budget.
Correct.
And so regardless of what happens with grants, this is the money that we know is coming in through the state, through taxpayer dollars.
Yes, and that number may change. It changed this morning. There's still the budget, it's still a work in progress with Ways and Means votes, and then we'll know exactly, we'll have an official, 100% official number.
Sounds good.
Going back, I think you asked a question about the $4.3 million for the municipal related costs. The memorandum of understanding calls, if you look at Section 8 of that memorandum of understanding, it points out some of the charges that are to be included with this memorandum of understanding. I wasn't here in 2013, but so I cannot speak for how the work that the city did for us back then. The thing that we're bringing up now is that the services that perhaps the city offered back in 2013 are not the services that they provide today. And when I'm talking about services, I'm talking about the things that are in the memorandum of understanding. That amount was back then was 2.48. Today, that amount is 4.3, and that comes straight off the top of our allocation of funds. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that. Any more questions about the memorandum of understanding? But
Jason,
yes, ma'am.
it's, it's disgusting to read this. I hate to say that.
I didn't mean for that to happen, ma'am.
But
And I inherited.
But you know what? Somehow or some way, we have to convince the city that it takes a village to raise a child, and they're part of this village. And they're just not sharing their portion. What can we do to almost, I don't want to say tie their hands, but to insist that this is a requirement that they have to pay?
So we're involved, Superintendent, you mentioned it earlier, right? In every dispute that I may have, I involve the Commonwealth's Department of Education. We have a meeting set up with them. I don't know how much progress I could make, talking from financial officer to financial officer as to why we believe that it doesn't make sense that next year we're getting less money for transportation than this year. I've tried to have those conversations. It is what it is. I think that I'm hoping that when we look at the memorandum of understanding and we look at the things that are on here that they would be responsible for, but they're not, right? Because, for example, if you look at number 10, right, which talks about school building maintenance, I can tell you that we cover all of our maintenance.
I was just going to say that, Chris.
We cover all of our maintenance. But back in 2013, I'm assuming that was not the case, right? So it's in this memorandum. It's a matter of getting the people to the table and talking about a new memorandum of understanding. What does it look like?
And how much money is that you are talking about?
What? You're talking about maintenance or the whole thing?
Maintenance.
Oh, maintenance. Merlino won't let me lie. It's a lot of money. Let me see. Merlino's always asking for more, so I can tell you it's a lot. Let me see.
Money in, the buildings would all be falling apart.
Exactly.
15? Roughly $15 million that we spend out of Chapter 70 funds
To support the maintenance of our
of our own buildings.
28 to 31 buildings.
Correct.
Supposed to be the responsibility of the city.
That is correct. However, let's just frame it. And this past fiscal year, because of the relationship we have with the Department of Education under the receivership, they allowed the school department to use ESSER funds to use it for maintenance and repair. And because that was the case, we invested $28 million. Our city schools have never looked as good as they had. In fact, I don't know of a day that we had this year where we have over 2,000 classrooms. 2,000 classrooms. That's what Mr. Molino and his crew takes care of. We did not have one day canceled because of no heat in the building or because pipes were frozen or it was too hot. So we collectively as a school and as a municipality made the investment, but you know what? You're tossing it out the window if we don't maintain it. And we don't have all brand-new buildings, and it requires a certain standard of maintenance to make sure, because those buildings are being used on a constant basis by close to 14,000 students. So we cannot go back, or we will lose all of the efforts that we made. And that's, I think, collectively what we have to explain to the municipality through its elected officials, through our budget hearings that we'll sit down with them. One strategy, Madam Chair, you asked, what can we do? I would ask that, I know that this is an area that's near and dear to Ms. Matias. She's passionate about it. And I would ask that you allow her to continue to serve on the Budget and Finance Committee as we now meet with each city councilor and explain to them where this budget came from, what the responsibility of the municipality is, and for them to also lobby to make sure that we're receiving our fair share to maintain our public schools and for the effort of maintaining the educational programs for our kids. We're far, but it's a first reading. We're going to continue to lobby and advocate for the needs of our kids, but at some point in time, we have to make a decision of where you draw the line. I don't know yet where a lot of these numbers are coming from. They had their preliminary meetings, and as you know, Madam Chair, this morning, you and I met with the Secretary of Education, who's the current acting commissioner, and his team, and we have expressed to them our concerns of this gap that we have. Thus the reason why we have the meeting regarding this memorandum of understanding with Jay Sullivan that represents the state's financial institutions to see if we can hammer that out and figure out a way of them making sure that we receive our fair share to maintain and sustain the level of operation. One last thing, and I'll turn it back to Mr. Cabrera, something that you know, Madam Chair. Every single one of our unions up for negotiation this year. This budget doesn't even include whatever agreements are made. So I think that we need to proceed cautiously, but we need to be very aggressive in advocating for what the needs of our current school district is as we go into the next year.
One question, Superintendent. Have you met with any individual counselors?
No, but they've sent a couple of emails inquiring, and we have sent notices to them that as part of the budget process this year, we will be hosting small groups so that we don't violate these subcommittee agreements. So we will be bringing them in two at a time or one at a time, where Mr. Cabrera and I and the deputy, and hopefully Ms. Matias can explain to them every single one of those numbers, and we can justify where they're coming from, so at least they're educated in knowing the entire school budget. We know that we know it because we live it every day, but I think it's imperative that we help them understand how we came to these numbers and what the responsibilities are from the municipality. I don't know that everyone in the community that's involved in preparing a budget understands what the maintenance of effort, that's the responsibility of the municipality. And funding for public education is part of that maintenance of effort. The maintenance of effort has to do with taxpayer dollars that come in that go directly from each community to the schools. We've been blessed through the new formula, obviously, of receiving a lot of money because Lawrence needed it. And recently, coming out of our situation with COVID, we were able to utilize a lot of those ESSER dollars that came out of the federal government. Those ESSER dollars are gone. There's no ESSER dollars. This budget was developed without any ESSER dollars. Who takes up that gap then? That's where the city's portion is supposed to be. And unfortunately, my interpretation is that they're not reneging on it, but they're certainly shortcutting us substantially on it.
Wow.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes, sir. And just as you mentioned negotiations, which we have a big one coming up with our teachers union. We calculate that for every 1% increase, we're talking about close to $1.4 million. So that is considerable. We also have the paraprofessionals union coming up, and you know, when I communicate with some of our internal stakeholders, you know, we try to help people understand that, yes, in the past we had, I don't want to say a surplus, but we had funds that were not used, right? Part of it is last year, for example, we had 500 vacancies, for example, right? The money that goes towards those salaries, you can hold there and do with it as you find fit. From 500, as of this week, I believe, Superintendent, you can correct me, I believe we're below 150 vacancies right now.
Correct.
So the pool of money that we had with 500 vacancies, because we didn't have to pay those salaries, went from 500 vacancies to 147 vacancies, and the pool got that much more smaller. So those are some of the things that as we plan, and you know, in the booklet, if you refer to the superintendent's letter in page 3 and 4, he talks about a lot of the great things that we're trying to do. ML, you know, our multilingual, our English language learners, how much, and I'll show a little bit of that budget, for example, because we're growing that. The early childhood programming, which we have a pilot going on for 4-year-olds, kindergarten pilot, also looking at enrichment opportunities for our kids. We're truly, really investing in smaller class sizes. He also talks about on his letter on page 4 about the facilities upgrades and school building improvements. And those are things that they require all the help that we can get. And, you know, we want to keep our teachers, you know, paid competitively across, you know, across the board. Our staff making a livable wage. We've done that. We've tried to do that with the unions that we have negotiated with. So we want to keep that going, and it's going to take every help, you know, every dollar that we can get.
Madam Chair, for the sake of time, is there anything else that you want to highlight, Jason?
Not on this. If we, unless anyone has any more questions, we can go to the next slide.
I have a quick one. Is there an assumption of no salary? Like the FY26 budget is assuming no salary increases, or?
No, that includes an adjusted, yes, an adjusted growth, yes.
Do you know how much?
I don't want to give away my formula, but
All right, that's fine.
I don't want to let them know how much we.
Like it's assuming some sort of an increase.
Yes. So talking about revenue, one of the ways that we get revenue, as we know, is the Student Opportunity Act, which brings to the city additional funds. I put on here for fiscal year 26, in addition to the Chapter 70 funds, The state also provides for Student Opportunity Act, which amounts to about $43 million. I put FTEs at the bottom. In fiscal year 25, it accounted for or funded 299 positions. A lot of those positions were positions that were ESSER positions, and instead of eliminating positions, we absorbed some of those positions, and then it grows by 20 this upcoming year. That's what we're getting funded for 20 positions. Anything outside of that is funded by the growth of our student population, which is about, for October 1st numbers, about 300 students. Next slide. All right, this is what Ms. Matias was asking about, just federal and state grants. If you can zoom in. These numbers is as they stand today. Grants run on 2 years, overlapping year over year. So, we are exhausting. We don't leave any grant dollars on the table. We do everything we can to utilize those funds often and early. For example, acceleration academies are funded again out of title funds. If we didn't have those funds, we wouldn't be able to fund acceleration academies, for example, or summer. Like I said earlier, the title grants fund about $5 million worth of salaries for teachers, speech pathologists, nurses, professionals, etc. And that's in addition to professional development and educational supplies that we purchase with that. Any questions about grants?
Not about grants, Jason.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any other communities within the state that are struggling with their city people with this similar situation?
I
Or
cannot.
are we unique to this?
I cannot speak for other cities. I'll be honest. I know we're not in a bubble. So we hear about a town next door over here that has a budget deficit, right? And how the taxpayers got to raise that money. We heard about the strikes in Beverly and Marblehead and those places, right? Because money is always tight. So those are some of the indications of money's tight, and we have to be smart about how we go about it. I couldn't speak to the relationships between city and schools and the struggles that they may have in other cities or towns, Madam Chair.
No, I just thought maybe there might be some way they're working with their city government to clear up some of this mess, like we have. It just popped into my head.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on this, that says federal and state grants.
Yes.
So we have here a difference of 27 million,
Correct.
right?
She's referring to the ESSER 3.
I see. Yeah, that's on ESSER. So that's on ESSER only.
Oh, that's not.
Yeah, it goes left to right.
Sum of all of
Yeah,
them?
no, it goes left to right. I'm sorry.
That's
It
only
goes
for
left to right.
ESSER.
So with ESSER, we utilize, again, they roll over year, right? And so fiscal year, this is the actual usage of it. Fiscal year 24, we use 17 million. This year, on fiscal year 25, we used 27. And we had, if you look at last year's budget, we had $2 million in there. That became zero earlier this month. We had late liquidation on that, which had been granted, and then it was taken away.
So these variants are individual, it's not a summary at the end.
Yes, ma'am, correct. It's individual.
But all-
Title I, 81,000, Title IIA, 26,000, et cetera.
So all these salaries, right, is already accounted in the amounts that you have for the budget, correct?
No, so I cannot count grant money. So grants are meant to supplement the state's investment.
Okay.
I cannot, for example, so let me give you an example. So if a school, the Arlington Elementary, gets one grant-funded teacher, that doesn't mean that I can just take that money and use it on whatever I want. I have to hire another teacher because they have the need. So I have to use the money for whatever the title is. I cannot use that money for anything else other than what the spirit of the grant is for.
So this is all additional,
Correct. Supplement, yes. Yes, ma'am.
okay. But still, it's going to be less than what we had before.
It was, in a lot of these for this year, it is, yes. Going forward, I do not know.
It looks like it's going to be less.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Next slide, please. All right, so I talked, if you can zoom in. This is what the priorities that I had talked about earlier. These are the superintendent's priorities, which are in page 3 and 4, I believe. These are things that we have been talking about from day one. We understand the need for a lot of these things, starting with, with the first one, we talks about the English language learners. I don't know if anyone has any questions about this. I can talk a little bit about each one of these, but on the booklet and superintendent's letter, he's addressed those priorities.
I would just say I really appreciate how thorough you guys have been in this budget. This is not what we saw last year or the year before in terms of detail and understanding where certain money is going, and really grateful to the fact that you have noticed that we have not been investing in ELL students at the rate that we should have, which is disappointing, knowing that the majority of our students are English language learners, and really just want to kind of lean in on anything that we can do to pivot and make sure that we're making those investments is something that I would love to see. And just thank you.
No, thank you. That has been, the directive from the superintendent from day one. So that's one thing that we've been looking at, and looking at, one, equality across the district. We've talked about that, making sure that the school in Tower Hill has the same resources as the school in Prospect Hill, Mount Vernon, downtown Lawrence, and the English language learners.
That's why he was hired, to make a difference.
Thank you. The English language learners was one population that in my opinion, and I think that superintendent and deputy superintendent and the folks that have worked on this would agree, has been somewhat neglected as far as the money that comes in and the allocation of money that proportionately goes to that population. So we're starting that by increasing their budget by that department's budget by a little bit over $3 million, or $4 million, I believe. Again, that's the plan if we get the funds that we need to get. But we're increasing that budget significantly, and then we're talking about how do we address some of the deficiencies that are still there with, teacher certification and all that. That's the next conversation, the second phase of the conversation. Is there no questions about this? We can go to the next slide. I think it talks about a little bit about revenue. I think we have 2 slides left. This is in your booklet. You're welcome to look at it. Of course, salaries, benefits, utilities, which have gone up considerably. On account, there is just in utilities alone, it's a $5 million difference from last year's budget. Doesn't mean that it's a $5 million increase, but the budget last year didn't account for it like it should. We can go to the next slide. And, again, and at the bottom of this here, it's how much would we need if we got everything that we want to do. Everything that we want to do, the superintendent wants to do, how much would it cost? The number is a different number. And that's why we're here to present this, get input from people, from stakeholders, sit down, talk about how we can make the best out of what we have. And I just wanted to highlight that number being different. That is the number if the children got everything that we wanted to get for our children. All right, next slide, please.
What is that number, Jason? Because I'm looking at your draft.
It's at 315.
315. Okay.
Yeah. This is this may be my last slide. This is just a little breakdown of just the spending overview, right? How we are spending the money and how that money is distributed amongst different buckets. We talk about, we highlight salaries making up 64% of the budget, benefits 10%, facilities, which we have to. We've increased their budget significantly, and then instruction, which includes things like professional development, materials, those kind of things. The next slide, please. All right, so this is this last slide. This is some increases worth noting in our budgets, right? For this year's budget, this is what some increases that are more significant. Again, almost $9 million in salaries, $7 million in educational supplies. So we're heavily investing in high quality materials for our teachers and for our children. $3.3 million in professional services to get that's training for our teachers, and then almost $3.3 million for the English language learners department increase. That is some of the ones worth noting. Hopefully we get to a point where we have the funds to fund those things and provide the best education for our children. Yes, Ms. Calaf.
What is the capacity or the highest number of students that the Lawrence School Department can hold?
Well, our current numbers, and me meeting with our assistant superintendent that handles our family resource center, let me see if I remember correctly, 13,800 and something, Mr. Acosta, is that correct? 13,800 students. Yeah, so that's the most recent number. That includes like a half a dozen new students this month. So we will continue to have student increase. And don't forget now, once the summertime comes, we will project for how many kids are coming into the school district based on how many children early childhood has. They communicate with us, and how many 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds are in the community. So we would have an estimate, but that estimate is always going to be conservative because of the amount of families that we have that move in. Take, for example, last year, we estimated, shout that out to me, Mr. Acosta, how many students did we anticipate for the first day of school of registration? Do we have a number? For the first day of school last year, based on our count numbers in the summertime and identification, 700 to 800. Yet, that calculation, we were off by almost half by the end, going toward the end of this school year. We've had over 480 new students on top of those 750.
Did
So-
those students, I'm sorry, did those students come in after October 1st?
Yes, which is.
We take a hit on that.
Correct, and that's something that we have asked our delegation, and that we hope that our senator is going to try to help us by working with the department to see if we can receive funding for those students on a quarterly basis, because it would help. We would have to absorb those students and wait till this next October to receive reimbursement for them. So, we can't shut down if a family comes and says, we don't have any room. We have to create that. Thus the reason why also we've become a strong advocate of trying to work with the city to please consider, when you're looking at building more units, and we know that for families. Mr. Deputy, how many units are in line that they're looking to approve in all of the Lawrence Redevelopment Authority for new units? Over 500 units of housing. Now, it would be fair to say at least 50% of those are going to have families with children in them, right? So over the course of the next 3 years, you're looking at a potential increase of about 700 to 1,000 students.
We easily go to 15,000.
Within the next couple of years, yes. Okay, so we have to be smart about, our enrollment, our projection, and making sure that we do the type of things that we're trying to do to forecast and work with the municipality.
And how much do we account per student? How much it costs?
Good question. What is the per pupil expenditure?
It's about, for a regular student, non-ELL, non-SPED student, it's about 21,900.
29,100?
21,900.
And if it was an ML student?
There's a calculation, but it goes up to a little bit over 30,000.
No. Per pupil expenditure for that one student. An ML student. A regular ed student's 21,000.
Yeah.
For an ML student, it's about 24.
The ML goes up to 3,000
By
per
3,000.
student.
And then if it's a special ed student, there's also,
It goes to above 30, yes.
so we can make some calculations based on the numbers that we have.
That-
Any other questions, or we want to finish with Mr.
That
Cabrera?
that is all that I have. I invite you to our subcommittee meetings. I'm always waiting for someone to show up so we can have talk about it. Sometimes it's me and Ms. Campuzano. I would love to have
I'm not invited.
have the people here, stakeholders in the community, if they watch this, they can look out for the subcommittee meeting. We have one more coming up, which is going to be a week before this meeting here. So I look forward to get input. This is what I wanted this to be kind of letting folks know where we're at and getting whatever input we can get on how to best continue to prioritize our needs.
We will communicate probably on a weekly basis here on in with the LAE Board to let you know of any updates and changes, and if we make any headway on the municipality of coming to some terms as to where our numbers are. Don't forget, Madam Chair, members of the board, we do have a meeting with the Department of Education to go over that memorandum of understanding, and I'm going to invite Ms. Matias, who is very keen on that, to Zoom in with us to have that conversation. I hope that you would accept that invitation, Ms. Matias. Thank you. Okay?
That is all. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Jason.
To be continued. Madam Chair, I'm going to, before I mention my goals I'm going to have, for the sake of time, I'm going to have the multilingual department come up to do a quick presentation on our tier-focused monitoring review that we just finished from the Department of Education who came in. As you might know, or if you don't know, every couple of years for our specials programs, the Department of Education comes in and does a monitoring review to see if we're following the regulations, the law, and providing these services accordingly to the law for those special populations, which is special education and multilingual. Ms. Gutierrez, welcome.
Good evening. My name is Maria Gutierrez Rey. I'm here from the Department of Multilingual Learner Education. Just to give you a brief update on our TFM, we just finished last month. So the Office of Language Acquisition, OLA, at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, supports school districts and charter schools through tiered focus monitoring, or TFM, to drive reform, sustain effective practices, and recognize high performance in schools in the state. OLA reviews English learner education programs throughout the state to ensure compliance with federal and state law and to improve student outcomes in our districts. All districts and charter schools in the state undergo monitoring every 6 years. The previous time here in Lawrence was school year 18-19. During the tiered focus monitoring, OLA reviews 13 indicators to ensure that the English learner education program in the district is effectively educating our multilingual learners. They review participation in annual English language proficiency assessment, that is Access for ELS, as well as participation in state accountability assessments like MCAS. They review our process for initial identification of English learners and former English learners upon enrollment, as well as our process for exiting the program and monitoring those students who are classified as former English learners. They review our ELE programs and services, that is the quality of our ESL instruction to make sure that the students are acquiring English language at a rapid pace. As well as parent involvement in this process, and also the parents' rights to decline entry at the program. So this is the students who opt out of EL services. Other things that are reviewed are parental notification of initial identification, progress in language acquisition, as well as exiting the program, follow-up support after exit, as well as district requirements like licensure for ESL teachers and SCI endorsements for grade level and content teachers, professional development requirements. All teachers and administrators are required to obtain 15 PTPs worth of English learners, professional development to renew their license. They also review our program evaluation, so our procedure to know that what we are doing is indeed working, and our record keeping for all things related to English learners. OLA does all of this in about 3 steps. First, there is a self-assessment, then there is on-site monitoring, and lastly, there is corrective action planning and continuous monitoring throughout the 6-year cycle. In the self-assessment, which actually happened last school year, we collect documentation extensively to prove that we have processes and procedures in place for each one of the indicators. It's very small on the screen, but you can see an example of what we were required to submit for indicator 3, which is the initial identification process. Just as a brief example, we had to submit documents proving that we have a process in place for identifying English learners on enrollment, that we have a home language survey that is given to all families and in English or their native language, and that we had to also provide information about the screening and assessment tools that we use for identification. We provided all of this information to the Department of Education last May, and they've been reviewing all of this over the last few months. Now, the site visit took place on the week of March 11th. In this week, 9 representatives from the Office of Language Acquisition and other offices at DESE visited 9 of our schools: the Arlington Elementary and Middle, Oliver Elementary and Middle, Gilmet Elementary, Frost Middle, Leonard Middle, High School Learning Center, and Lawrence High School. During the visit, they visited many classes in these schools, both ESL classes as well as SCI classes, and had student focus groups, parent focus groups, and interviews with leadership, administration, teachers, students' families, and staff in the Department of Multilingual Learner Education. After our site visit, we had many things to celebrate. Some of the highlights were our high assessment participation rates, again, both in Access and MCAS. We have low dropout rates for high school English learners and very high graduation rates. They also celebrated the large number of students who earned the seal of biliteracy at the Lawrence High School, the frequent and appropriate use of data cycles throughout the district, as well as the expertise of the Department of Multilingual Learner Education, our professional development offerings and support. And I didn't put it in the slide, but we also got a shout out for our use of Title III funds and the innovative programs that we are running here in the district, which they're always looking to highlight and share with other districts in the state. Of course, not everything was good news. We did have some findings to highlight these 3. So we had findings in ELE 5, which is program and services. This looks at ESL instruction, the percentage of students who are making progress in English language acquisition, how we are monitoring progress in ELD, and the implementation of WIDA standards in grade level and content classrooms. We also had a finding in interpretation and translation, ELE 7, in particular for school-based interpreters for more spontaneous interactions with families. And lastly, we had a finding in ELE 14, licensure requirements. We do have a number of staff members working in ESL positions who are not appropriately licensed to do so, as well as some teachers and administrators who haven't completed the requirements for their SCI endorsement. This was a brief summary of the whole process. We will be receiving a detailed report from the Office of Language Acquisition this month. Once the report is ready, we'll be sharing with this board as well as other members of the school community, including school principals, teachers, as well as, more importantly, families to keep them informed. After we receive the report, we will be working with the Office of Language Acquisition to create a corrective action plan so we can address the findings. This will happen in collaboration with OLA. It won't be a mandate. And then, of course, monitoring never really ends. So over the next 5 years, we have ongoing monitoring with technical assistance from OLA and the ML department, and we really look forward to finding those best ways to identify or to fix the areas of growth and to maintain the strengths of the district. That is my brief update, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Questions?
What would you say they found was the strength?
The strength?
The strength, yes.
So they looked at 13 indicators and only found findings in 3. So I'd say the other 10 were pretty positive. They were particularly pleased with our processes and procedures and the knowledge of the staff on all of those for identification, exit, monitoring, etc., as well as the integration of English learners into the everyday life in the school buildings. So students had access to everything that a general education student would have in the district.
If I could just make a comment, I think it's important to note that the parents have formed the LPAC, and it's a very vibrant group, and we really need a shout out to them because they're really tuned into what their children need. And I believe Mr. Rondon's right there, and they're doing a great job, so I think they need a shout out.
They definitely do. We have the largest and strongest LPAC in the state. They are a point of pride for the district and the city of Lawrence as well. We have every opportunity that we can to showcase the amazing work that the LPAC does. And I think as a show of that is Mr. Rondon's presence here. We continue to collaborate with them to make sure that that flow of communication goes both ways.
Thank you so much for that presentation. One question I have, I heard you say that one of the deficiencies is the appropriate training for some of our staff. So going into fiscal year 25, also knowing that we haven't been investing in the bilingual program as much as we should, what is the plan to rectify that?
So there is a shortage of qualified ESL teachers at the state level. This is not just a problem that Lawrence is encountering. There are insufficient teacher preparation programs in the state, in the universities, almost nothing at the undergraduate level. So we have a lot of folks who enter ESL after the fact, so either changing from, saying, a grade level teacher, a content teacher, into teaching ESL, or career changers. Because we know, and we've been monitoring the number of staff who don't have the appropriate license, we do have programs in place. We currently have a partnership with Lesley University. We have 20 folks completing a teacher preparation program. They should be graduating in the fall, and we expect all of those. Those are all actively employed as ESL teachers in the district, fully funded by LPS. So thank you, LPS, for doing that. We also have support for licensure for passing the MTELs. The Office of Teacher Diversification runs MTEL boot camps, both for the communications and literacy skills test and the ESL MTEL. Many of the folks who are working in ESL positions are English learners themselves, so the language barriers are present and difficult to overcome. We have many ideas. We have some projects in development to continue to offer more teacher preparation programs through partnership with universities, to hopefully and potentially offer ESOL classes to the staff so we can improve their level of English and try to overcome some of those barriers. The other part of the finding was the sheltered English endorsement. The district does offer the SCI endorsement course twice a year. We are thinking if we need to increase the number of offerings or potentially make it more flexible by either changing the time that when it's offered or the modality from in person to online. We need to be creative to give people the opportunity to pursue training in ways that make sense, and it feels like we're investing in them because we want them to be highly qualified and stay.
You're muted.
Juana, you're not on, we can't hear you.
I'm not saying anything.
Oh.
Any further
sorry.
questions?
Anything else?
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
staying so late, and congratulations to the department on the work that all of you do.
Absolutely.
We have big plans for all of you people next year. Right? Good work. That's what it's about. Madam Chair, two quick things. I know that I have submitted my mid-year review to all of you. I just want to remind and reflect that the whole evaluation cycle starts with a self-evaluation that I was required to do it coming on many months ago. And followed by looking at and assessing the school district and really analyzing the turnaround plan that I have owned and I feel very comfortable with. And with that, I had to develop some goals that I submitted to the LAE Board that all of you approved as my goals for the year. And at this time in the cycle of the school year, it is my responsibility to submit my mid-year progress report towards those goals. So as I submit this report to you, highlighting, the process that I've had and the initiatives that guided my professional work in leading the district, I'm happy that I was able to go through this mid-year evaluation progress report. This initial year has been a tremendously gratifying and rewarding experience for me. The motivation of our teachers and staff, the commitment of our parents, the desires and dreams of our students, and the unwavering support of our educational leaders have all provided me the energy and the drive to relentlessly pursue a vision, as the leader of Lawrence Public Schools. Reflecting on these last 6 months has affirmed my conviction that LPS continues to improve and I remain committed to a vision where students' achievement, family engagement, and staff dedication are at the forefront of all my undertakings. The goals that guide our work continue to motivate me to work harder, expand collaboration, and invite more partners and stakeholders to join us. So as I submit this progress report to you, I hope that all of you have the opportunity to go through those. Within it attached are evidence as to the things that have been going on in the district. And I look forward to your input, your comments, and suggestions as we continue on toward the end of this school year. So I submit this mid-cycle report to you. I hope that you have the opportunity to look at it, and I look forward to your favorable vote of accepting it with whatever comments you might want to add at our next board meeting. Okay?
And I had the opportunity to go through it briefly, and there's some really good stuff in there. That's the way I could explain it. I'd like the board to take some time and to go through that document and see some of the great things that are happening in this district. And I agree with you, Superintendent, that perhaps we'll have some discussion on it next month.
Thank
If
you.
that's agreeable with everybody. Okay.
Real quickly, as I finish up our meeting, we had the opportunity just this past week to celebrate the month of autism here in the city of Lawrence. And Richard Rodriguez, who serves as one of our staff members at City Hall, did the research, and unbeknownst to us, there is no other community in the state that has designated, a month for autism celebration. So it was the first, and it was wonderful. We had lots of parents. We had about 100 parents there. We raised the flag. I think a lot of our families participated, and let me tell you something. Those that are blessed to have autistic kids, it's a fight from the day they're born. Those parents are tough. They advocate for kids, and they represent the best of what parent engagement is about in Lawrence Public Schools. And around the district, if you go on to your next page, the wonderful thing about these things is the engagement that we have through quality enrichment of our kids and where we're taking them. There you see them there at the Science Museum. It's such a wonderful place. We'll have our kids going to the aquarium also, so our field trips are becoming very standards focused as to what they're studying through the curriculum. We were blessed to have the Secretary of Education visit us at Lawrence High School twice. And obviously, you have his picture there. If there's one staunch advocate of public education who was a former school board member, is Senator Payano, who is always in the district engaged with our kids. You mentioned Mr. Rodon and the LPAC, but we've also seen a tremendous increase in our Duval's Council and our coffees. Our Duval's and Council and coffee hours for the next couple of months are going to be engaged in the strategic planning. So they've been tapped into by ERS to tap into them and find out from them because they're engaged on a regular basis. So I think that was a great strategy. But also, another foundation came and selected 4 of our students from the Leonard School, and they are part of the leadership program founded by New England Patriots Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion Matt Light. These 4 students represent the Leonard School, and they've been selected. They'll be going to a leadership training to Ohio in the summertime, and they're required to do some work as leaders when they come back to the school. And I had the opportunity to participate with them and told them what that undertaking is about. Around the district, our next induction class into Abbott was had at Lawrence High School. A lot of parents, a lot of staff, and everybody's eager and waiting to go. As you know, Abbott's going to be moving from the main campus to our old high school, and I think that that's going to be a wonderful opportunity. Our young ladies in our district celebrated Women's History Month, and it's important. We had visitors come in and talk about the importance of women's contribution and where they're at and why they're needed, but I think that was a great self-esteem booster for them also. We celebrated the Lancer Special Olympics basketball team. They came in 3rd place. They thought they were going to come in 1st place, so they were a little bit upset. I said, but that's why we practice for next year. Gear Up, which is a partnership that we have situated at the high school, do a tremendous job. They hosted a fair of over 100 schools in the fall for our seniors to be looking at toward college. And this past month, they put together a trade show for all of our students to look at the career paths that are available. They're tremendous partners. Miss Mariano, you mentioned the performance of our students. There you have them in uniform, their acting uniform, that is. Miss Saigon, which is available Friday and Saturday of this weekend. So I hope that folks have the opportunity. If it's cold out, you can't beat the price. It's $5. Instead of going to the Wang Theater for $250, right? Our kids tend to perform better. Sorry about that. And your last slide, guess what? We have an end of the year close. Important end of the year dates. So you have the last day of school officially is the 17th. There's a couple of schools that need to stay extra because we had some emergencies in closing schools, but they've been communicated with. And graduation, Madam Chair, members of the board, Friday, May 30th. Rain, snow, sleet, or hail. It happens at the Veterans Memorial Stadium, and if there's bad weather, we move it inside, but please, 6 o'clock. Please put that on your calendar. Your presence is required to celebrate the accomplishments of all of our kids. 2 other things going on, virtual coffee, where our strategic planners are still going to be participating. And for our folks listening outside and parents, we have questionnaires. It's important that our families fill out those questionnaires to help guide our work, okay? So we look forward to the spring. I know it doesn't seem like spring is in the air, but it is. We have had a tremendous school year thus far. I hope that we're going to finish strong. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate all your support, and I apologize for such a long meeting. That is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent. And actually, I'm glad that my first meeting back was a long one. Everybody, that concludes our meeting for tonight. The next anticipated LAE meeting will be on May 14th. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Maria, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Arlene Garcia,
Yes.
Juana Matias,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. That concludes our meeting for this evening, and a happy Easter to all our LPS families. Thank you.